here, ladies and gentlemen. Time for a fork in the road. Sheree is joining us as we are talking about one of Sheree's favorite topics, period, and one of the most consumed things nowadays is everybody seems to want to eat more kale.
Kale is the darling of the superfood world. Let's face it, because there's always something du jour. So, you know, the thing that catches fire, and so kale seems to be the little darling of the vegetable, leafy green world. So
I thought you were the little darling of the leafy green world.
I do my damnedest.
So this is, I'm sorry, this is what it's supposed to look like?
This is what it does look like.
No, because I tried growing, I must be eating weeds.
Okay.
In my garden.
Oh, that's not what yours looks like?
No, mine don't look like
That's
this
a different
at all.
segment.
Well, here's the thing. This is just one variety of kale. So there's a ton of different varieties. And this one is called dinosaur or lacinato kale. And this one is, and the reason that they call it dinosaur kale is that the leaves have kind of a dinosaur-like look to them. You know, like a dinosaur skin.
Okay.
Lacinato's the fancy word if you want to like impress your friends. It actually even has other names as well. This is just one variety. This is a flatter, flat leaf. You know, like parsley comes in like curly parsley and flat parsley. Lacinato, or sorry, kale does the same thing. So this would be a flatter one. You may be growing curly kale, which has a fluffier kind of a consistency.
It's all shriveled, when it comes out. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, well, shriveled isn't a good word. Curly would be more what we're looking for. Okay. So this would be a little bit sweeter than the kale that you're growing. They have a little bit different taste. Kale also will taste different depending on the growing conditions. During hotter weather, it tends to get a little bit more bitter.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So, and the soil that you grow it in, the time of year, and those types of things. And there's more than one kale harvest. So there's a lot to know. If you're a kale farmer, it's pretty easy to grow, and it's really worth your while to try. The other thing is, when you buy it at the farmer's market, for example, this whole head was $2.
Right.
So it's a good deal. It's a good bargain, particularly this time of year. Storing kale, a couple options. One would be to put it in a container like this, fill it up with just enough water to give it a drink, put a little plastic over the top and put it in just like you've seen me do with some herbs. Another thing is sometimes what I'll do is I'll just put it in a plastic bag and put it in the crisper drawer.
It's lasted a long time for me whenever I've done that.
Yeah, because it's a very sturdy. And because it's sturdy, we need to do something to it before we eat it. You wouldn't want to just put this in a salad. See how tough this is? This doesn't chew really well. So what we do, I've prepared some things for you, but to prepare the things for you, I have to first prepare the kale. And the first thing that you do when you do kale is you usually will de-stem it. And that's how you do that. So it's pretty easy to do, particularly with lacinato. It's a little bit more cumbersome with the curlier kale.
Right.
But this is pretty easy to do. And then, so what you do then, that's to prepare it to make it into a salad. And we'll talk about the salad in a second. I want to start with talking about if you want to experiment first and buy some kale product rather than growing it or whatever, you can buy kale chips in the store. They're very popular. However, they're very expensive. This bag was $5.
$5?
$5.
Ew.
And this is not the premium priced brand. And so what you would get inside is a small amount, I think, comparatively. So we'll put it in the bowl and see. So
that's it for $5?
This is the $5.
See the bag real quick.
I think commercial kale chips are almost prohibitively expensive, and they're really easy to make.
This says 2 ounces on here. That's what I was looking at.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of kale, and I'll let you taste it. This is not one. This one's a cool ranch flavor. I've not tasted this. So what I did was I made you some kale chips. And I
love kale chips.
It's like somebody dumped Hidden Valley powder.
And they make a ranch dressing. The same company, Rhythm, makes a ranch dressing, and I suspect that that's what they were doing, was that they were doing product extensions, which makes sense. This is one head of curly kale, and this filled up more because we took some and put it on your plates. And what I did was I just made a simple coating using cashews, red bell peppers, and nutritional yeast, and made you some kale chips, which I think are comparable, if not better, than the store-bought ones.
They're better.
Remember, this amount of
that
kale.
That has more flavor, a lot more flavor.
Love kale chips.
$2 worth of kale, a red bell pepper, whatever the going rate would be when you buy it in season, some nutritional nutritional yeast, a little bit of cashews. So my cost is less than $5.
So
and
what
I
makes
made
it
this
stick to the
much.
kale then?
The nutritional yeast and cashew I make a batter with it. So I put it in the blender, puree it up, and then I massage it into the leaves, and then I dehydrate it.
Okay.
And there are recipes you can find online where you do it in the oven. You don't have to use a dehydrator. I like the dehydrator versions. I think that they work out beautiful.
I was gonna say this is really
When
nice
I
and
make
crispy.
them, I just bake them, and I know you don't like to heat things up, but I just bake them on a cookie sheet with olive oil and salt, and it tastes like popcorn.
Yes,
I mean,
it's
really good.
delicious. Yeah, they're just great. And I like the curly ones because they hold the flavoring a little
They have
bit
the
better.
nooks and crannies.
Correct. Yep, a little bit better than this. But if you want to use a flat leaf or lacinato kale, one way that you can do it is to make a salad. So remember I was telling you, you destem first,
Right.
then you break into small pieces, and then what you would do would be to you need to do something to break this down if you're not going to heat it.
Okay.
And I don't want to heat your salad. I don't want to saute the kale, which certainly you could do and eat it as a side. So I break it down using salt. Sometimes salt and lemon juice. It's really easy.
And how long of a process is that then?
Simple. You just massage it until it's the texture that you want it to be.
So it happens that quick?
Minutes.
Wow. Really?
Minutes, yes. So I made you a kale salad with, I broke it down using some salt, a little bit of lemon juice. And then I wanted to because it's morning, I wanted to make kind of a breakfast kale salad.
Oh, okay.
So I put in some walnuts and bananas. Just because
Really
it
good.
sounded like it would be something that would be
a sweeter
a
salad?
little bit sweeter, but it's not sweet.
No,
it's
it's
just
not.
sweeter because of the banana. If you wanted it sweet, we could drizzle a little bit of maple syrup on the top. We could put some honey in it or whatever. But this is a really good way to get you to eat a little bit of greenery.
No, you keep calling it a superfood. Why is this considered a superfood?
Because of the nutritional profile of it. Believe it or not, this is pretty high in protein. It's really high in calcium, and there are a lot of vitamins and minerals and nutrients. Vitamin K in most leafy greens is pretty prevalent, and in kale in particular. So it is considered a superfood because it has high concentrations of almost all of those elements.
So it's not like iceberg lettuce where you're going to eat it and be hungry 10 minutes later. It's
Exactly.
going to stick with you.
Right.
Now, I love making kale chips when I have time to do it. Are we taking away those nutrients by heating them up in the oven, or just because we're eating kale, we're actually making a step in the right direction of eating healthier?
You got it.
Okay.
The latter. I would rather see, rather than have you say, well, we're heating it, so we're taking away the nutrition. Oh no, you still got a lot of fiber. You still preserved a lot of the goodness in it.
Okay.
It's best raw, but on my health continuum that I talk about all the time. Good, better, best. If you're doing good, you're doing better than not so good.
Right.
So, yeah.
And there are people at home saying, ugh, kale, and I'm telling you, it's not bad. I mean,
Well, if people are like, I always get a bitter flavor, is there a great way of just making sure you can lighten that up a little bit?
Well, sometimes it's the kale when you buy it. You know, you might see, I picked this particular head of kale because the leaves were smaller. There were bigger leaves to pick from, and so you might say, well, for $2 you get a better deal if you get the big
Right.
stalks, but you don't, because just like with many fruits and vegetables, when you buy the bigger ones, the flavor's compromised. So you want to buy the smaller ones. That's one way. The other way is during the cool season, the vegetables and the leafy greens in particular taste less bitter. And so that's another option.
Okay.
And then to play with the recipe, play with the flavor profile. Put a little bit of maple syrup in there if you think that bitter is offset by sweet.
Okay.
So change it to however you want. Even if you say, well, I'm putting maple syrup on my salad, that's not healthy, you're still eating salad. So walk before you run.
right.
go.
And more you're going to see kale popping up. One of the big fast food chains just recently said that they're going to be adding kale to their menu.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big boost for kale's popularity as well.
Yes, and I'm happy to see anything go mainstream if it's healthy. So it's
There you
all
go.
good. Yeah.
Wonderful.
All right, fork in the road. When can we expect it?
Fork in the road, we're still working the program, so we'll let you know. But in the meanwhile, if you want to reach me, go to www.fork-road.com or send me an email at info@fork-road.com.